France has officially stopped being the engine of Europe and has instead become its loudest terminal patient. Today, the Elysée isn't a centre of power. It's a trauma ward where the doctors are stabbing each other while the patient rants in a fever dream. If you think I'm exaggerating, just look at the recent track record. 3 prime ministers in 18 months. Michel Barnier lasted about as long as a coffee break before a no-confidence vote took him out. François Bayrou drowned in strikes before he could even blow out the candle on his first anniversary. And now we have Sébastien Lecornu, a man whose greatest achievement is being a prime minister who tried to resign, only for Macron to force him to stay. We essentially have a hostage at the helm of the government. To keep the lights on, the state has been forced to rely on emergency finance laws. Meanwhile, the markets are watching the spectacle with popcorn in one hand and a noose in the other. French 10-year bonds are skyrocketing, and Fitch has already downgraded their credit rating. France, the proud global power, is now playing in the same debt league as Belgium or the UK. With debt nearing 120% of GDP and a 7% deficit, the country is basically throwing a luxury gala paid for with a credit card that's already been declined. And to make matters worse, the pension reform, that tiny little measure meant to keep the country from imploding before 2030, has been buried just to keep the mob off the streets. But the real fun isn't the present. It's the apocalypse looming in 2027. With Macron legally barred from running again, the political landscape looks like a scene from a gladiator movie. Marine Le Pen, the eternal runner-up, is currently spending more time in courtrooms than at rallies. But it doesn't even matter. She's pulled a rabbit out of her hat. Jordan Bardella. He's 30 years old and the ideal son-in-law for anyone who wants to watch the system burn. Bardella isn't just leading the polls with 35% of the vote. He's achieved the impossible, winning over the retirees who used to fear him and the women who used to avoid him. And what is this new messiah's brilliant economic potion? Brace yourselves. A bailout from the European Central Bank. That's it. That's the plan. Bardella wants Frankfurt to turn on the money printer to save the French accounts. It's every teenager's dream. Spend without limits and let the neighbours pick up the tab. His strategy has shifted from an aggressive Frexit to a Maloney-style Euro-reformism. They don't want to leave the European Union anymore. They want to stay and redecorate the place using everyone else's money. Bardella's economic programme is an ode to pure imagination. He promises tax cuts and, get this, wage hikes that he claims won't cost companies a single euro. It's financial alchemy. While the left offers the classic, make the rich pay, Bardella is betting on, make the magic pay. And while he talks about protecting national champions, the reality is that France spends so much on pensions that its tech investment is a joke. Macron announced $30 million for AI. That's what a US tech giant spends in the time it takes you to drink a latte. Bardella's ace in the hole is trying to force the ECB to activate the TPI, a mechanism designed to buy the debt of countries in deep trouble. The problem is that the ECB, despite what politicians think, has a pesky little habit called independence, and rules that prohibit bailouts on demand. If France wants the cash, they'd have to answer to the Troika. We all saw how that ended for Greece. Cuts, tears, and national humiliation. Is French pride really ready for a bunch of technocrats in Frankfurt telling them what age they're allowed to retire? Bardella is banking on the idea that France is too big to fail. If Greece almost toppled the euro while representing only 2% of the European economy, France, at 16%, is a financial nuclear bomb. It's elegant blackmail. Rescue me, or we all go down together. And just in case the ECB tries to act tough, Bardella has one last card: Donald Trump. A potential alliance with Washington to bypass Brussels and spark enough panic in the European Commission that they eventually cave to every demand. France is approaching the cliff with a smile of total superiority. With stagnant productivity, a failing education system, and a complete absence of social peace, the country is waiting for a miracle, or its neighbours' wallets, to solve structural problems that have been rotting for decades. The question isn't whether France needs a bailout, it's how much longer they can pretend they don't. The show is about to start, and the ticket is going to be expensive for everyone.